I was just saying to kind of, look after yourself actually is one of the main things. And to kind of, open the chest, feel, there's a certain kind of confidence that comes from that stance even. So even if you're not really feeling it, if you put your hands on your hips, you're automatically creating a physical kind of opening. And that helps, I think. I certainly feel it helps me. The other one is the victory symbol. And I was at a workshop once, and before they started, they said, "Now you're all grade A students. You've all been allocated an A. You need do nothing different from, you need be no different from how you are. You're already winning, and so are we as the teachers. We're all kind of A students, so you don't have to worry about this." Actually sounds really annoying. I'm going to stop. Okay, it's something about like not being not feeling like you have to perform or something, you don't have to do anything different. Okay, so I wanted to see what that might look like color-wise. It looks a bit more like the foliage than the pot, really. So I think if I put out some red, I could mix in a little bit of red into that. Now this is cadmium red. I think there might be a hint of red in that shadow on the vase. Okay. See what I mean? It kind of feels a little bit more like I'm getting closer to the vase color now. And you're welcome, Meg, especially if you want to just dip into that bag of stuff there. Yeah. I think the System 3 is great. I used to teach in Amsterdam, was it? And they used to think that was the best brand ever over there. They thought that was the top class. You get shamed for for the brands that you're using. These are people who have curtains in their houses, I'd say. Okay, right. Let's see now in here. And can I have that? There is an option as well. Okay. For goodness sake, I just need to do something. I suppose I could maybe start with pardon? Yeah, the beginning. Yeah. And there's a happy medium to kind of taking the piss altogether and actually needing to have a bit of space, all right, and know when you're ready. I want to put the vase a little bit to the left. Let's start with that, for God's sake. Let's start with the vase. And now looking at it, like there's the dark band at the top where the vase meets the flowers. And then above that dark band, I would say there's almost like, if I'm going to the very top of the flowers, it's not quite as high as the vase is, but almost. So I want to leave enough space both above and below this dark band. I'm talking about the dark area here. I want to leave enough space above and below to fit both the foliage and the bottom of the vase. Okay, so let's see now. And I also don't want it to be full center, like I want it to have an asymmetry to it. Just because I kind of like that, slight spilling over one way. Okay, so if my eyes half closed, and I'm going to just see if I can find something to represent that center from which the foliage is coming and the elegance of the bottom of it is coming. And I think I need a little bit more red in there. And the brush was fairly dry. Actually, until I put the red on, it was fairly dry. And I kind of like the cross-hatched carry-on. What am I doing here now? I still feel I want it to be darker. I'll try this brush. I'm going to use some of the ultramarine blue to really give it a slightly a deeper tone there, because when I half close my eyes, I feel like that really is one of the darkest parts of the whole thing. And as I work, like, it's interesting to begin engaging with the paper, because I feel like, oh yeah, actually I want to shift the vase a bit that way. There's a kind of, it becomes a bit more possible to just change things once there's something on there. Use the bigger brush for that area, bigger brush and the same blue and brown. Yeah, there's a kind of holding the breath moments earlier on, and I'm gonna get used to that. Right. Let's dry that off a bit, and then launch back in with some dark on this side. And I wanted the strokes to be a bit bigger over here. And then what I think I'll do there is get the kitchen paper and dip it into some water. And I might take off then some of the, because like the background behind the vase on the right is it's lighter than the vases on this side. So I can kind of take some of that off. And I don't want all of this carry on happening here either, so I'll just do that there as well. That's okay. Yeah, and there's a connection between the tabletop and the vase that's dark to light as well down there. It's actually probably out a little bit further though. Oh, there's some brown in there. Jeez, there's brown happening somewhere. I think it's okay. Okay. Sometimes, you know, when you splash a thing and wipe it away afterwards, it can make a really nice. I'm going to wipe it off there first, though. I don't want it to be splashed all over the place. But you see how you get this nice kind of effect. And you could leave it for as long as you want, like to dry in a bit more. Okay. It's all a bit like I'm kind of chancing my arm and trying things, and so I'm not talking an awful lot because I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do in advance. Like, in fact, I really have no idea. So I'm not going to pretend that I do by talking about it. But it's just like, let's see what happens now after that. And what do I feel like doing next now? You know, that kind of thing. And I suppose it'd be no harm to go up into to begin explaining something of the foliage next, possibly. Yeah, so I've picked up the sap green. I don't want it to be just sap green on its own. Again, I'm kind of half closing my eyes to really decipher the darks and lights. And with the sap green and that colour that was already on there, I think I'm just making a kind of a muddy concoction actually, so I'm just going to lift that off. So that's more the sap green on its own, well, with the brown that was on the brush. Oh, Jesus. What was that about? I mean, there are some dots, like some splashes. Oh, thanks. I've never before done that much of a bold move on the ceiling. We get a splash, you know, but not and these are biodegradable. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, but sometimes I've had a kind of a streak of a splash up there, but never such a bold move. Thank you. I'll keep that handy just in case. Okay, what was I going to do there now? Yeah, so I think, yeah, oh, I thought about something. I thought that maybe, like this is probably not great now, because I would suggest that you, well, I have a bit of order. You know, you want to kind of create a bit of order on your table in advance, that you you know where things are, you can easily access what you need. And I'm afraid I'm not making a very good example here, but I kind of know that all the stencils are on this table, except the one that I'm thinking of. I was thinking there was one that was quite good for leaves. Oh, for goodness sake. I'll just try this one. Okay, I'll just try this one. I do online courses, you know, and people send me stencils from all over the place. I got a whole pile of them from a lady in California. No, yeah, California. Okay, so I'm just gonna do something there to insinuate the curve of the leaves coming down. And then there's the eucalyptus going out that way. I mean, eventually, possibly the vase might reduce a little bit so that I really do get the full breadth of the foliage. Did I even turn on that timer? I did. I've got 13 minutes left. Okay. But you can kind of see how it could be exciting to have that as an option for different surfaces, different areas, just to do something. Maybe that could be kind of eucalyptus looking, but I put a bit more of the blue in. Eucalyptus, I think, has a kind of a bluish hint to it. And it's heading off out there. I don't think it actually looks like that at all. But it's at least it's in the area of the eucalyptus. And then there's a little bit more of it coming out this side, which I don't think I'll get if I've got the vase over this far. So I might move it a little bit, but touches of the eucalyptus there and there as well, I think. All right. I'm a little bit impatient with myself now for going to the periphery when really I could do with capturing something of the heart of it with the foliage that's there, knowing that I can lift out the shapes of the flowers and even impose with collage or different things the shapes of the flowers over the top after. Yeah, I'm stretching up a bit now, so I'm going to move that down a touch. Take a drink of water. And keep going then. It's kind of wet now, so let's see what will happen if I put it on when it's a bit wet. I don't think I wouldn't mind it going that way. It's a bit annoying, all that noise. Okay, let's see. You'd be kind of trying to see what you're like, I'm trying to see what I like and what I'm kind of wondering about. And there's a quote that I've always loved by Paul Klee, and he says, "Make chance essential." You know, so to do stuff that's gonna give you a bit of an edge to have to draw back from, and respond in a different way. Let's see. I'm gonna catch some of those drips so I don't want them all going that way. And maybe while I'm letting that carry on, do something. I think I might do something for the tabletop in the meantime. Like I wanted to just say this is foliage and there'll be things shooting up from it. Anyway, yeah, let's just leave it for a second. And sometimes, actually, I forgot about that. Sometimes I'd use, sometimes I might use a little bit of collage in the pot. Incorporate that in somewhere, because the pot is something that stands, you know, overlapping the table. But we could also put a bit of masking tape down for this, where the tabletop meets the space around it. It's about there, I think. I'm judging that by the amount of the vase that's sitting into the table from where I'm standing. It's kind of not dissimilar, is it, from the tabletop? It would be possible to... Well, why don't I just do it? Sometimes you just kind of want to do something rather than imagine what it might be. Just stick that on for a minute anyway. It mightn't stay there, like. But when I stand back, and I'd recommend standing back regularly. When you stand back, then you might, it might push you on to do something more somewhere else. And there's something with a bit of colour. Need to put it somewhere else too, maybe. Yeah, it's all right. Like, I think I might just take that off though, and see if I can make some sort of painted version. home here, it's a little bit purpley. There's kind of low-level panic happening all the time here, just to let you know. But it's a familiar panic, and I kind of keep the faith about it. I put on the masking tape because I wanted to kind of see, and I wanted to do something maybe with a purplish color or something that would, yeah, just that would read as being different from what's above it, you know. So that clearly we've got where the table stops and the space around it starts. Yeah. So I'm going to put on this purple. What is it? Windsor. I think I'll start with that anyway, because it seems to me that that paper I put on feels a bit like a tablecloth, and it's got some purple in it. So I'll just do it. Might be that other colours are layered over it after. Okay. We might do a bit more of the foliage too now. I think it's good, like Suzanne says, to my painting holds hands and comes up together. I think it's a good thing to keep it alive everywhere, best you can. Okay, what was I thinking of there? So doing something up there, yeah. And I think possibly a bit of yellow into the sap green would give me the colour for that plant that's shooting up to the left, to the right there, that I stole out of the garden. There's a lot more of them. If we want to, you know, the kind of yellow-green colour. That's quite tall, up at the back there. This looks awful now, but I think it might be okay. If I dry it off and let it just go on cross-hatched, kind of, and it's shooting like there, kind of. That's fierce. That's fierce, colourful looking. So I'm putting a bit of the Van Dyke brown into it to take some of the brightness out of that colour. Because I think you can always come back and do the light with a thicker media, like you could use the oil pastel or something to put on the light. But it's helpful, like the darks, as they say, the darks are like the bass in music. They hold it all together. So it's helpful, I think, to have some, it's helpful to have a kind of a dark tone as a foil for the light that may later arrive. Just trying to get the shape of the space between some of the leaves there. Maybe even I might print that colour because it's going up there. There's other leaves that feel like that colour there. A little bit too. And coming down here as well. And then there's a little daffodil that sits in front. Like I had the idea that later on I would kind of discuss ways of pulling out and modelling individual flowers as you might choose to. But I think, breathing. I think by the coffee break, say after 40 minutes of working, it would be exciting to have a surface that you're inspired to work over, to explain something of the tablecloth, something of the vase, something of the general shape of the flowers. You know, so to kind of work and then and have fun doing that, you know, but like knowing that later you can model things up into a bit more clarity. But I would like to, before I stop now, I don't know, I would like to put some, in the last 5 minutes, something on to describe the colour of those, what are they called, hellebores, are they? Those ones there. I didn't put it, oh, I have that collage on. Like that might stay or it might not, I don't know, I don't like it kind of coming. Yeah, we'll see, that might stay or go, I don't know. Stick a touch over there maybe. Actually, the tablecloth is kind of lighter on that side, so let me just put it there. But the hellebore colour, could do with maybe making a colour with the paint first. And it's always handy to have a second in the water. You just pour that as okay. Okay. And I think it might even be a little bit of the cadmium red. With a bit of that purple might make something like it. It's not far off it, is it? And just with my eyes half closed to indicate their position in the group, I think might be helpful too. And over the green, it's not really reading as the brightness of it at all, but it's really just to somehow place them in the positions that I'm seeing, and to find just the location, just saying there's something here that can later be embellished, and you might find like it's quite tricky to make the yellow read over the any color underneath really. So often what I do for that is to put something down. It's a bit bright now, but just to, you could even put some white paper down and work with the yellow over it. But I think you can, oftentimes you can start like there with the mid tone or the darker one, just to establish its position. Let me do that with her. No, I don't think I want to put collage on there yet. Maybe just using some yellow ochre and putting it on thickly enough. Let's see. Really do it standing back more. I don't like that anyway when I stand back. And yeah, I think it does really help to create some distance between yourself and what it is you're working on. It kind of makes me want to put something on the bottom of the vase actually to give that a bit of a more robust feel to it. Does anyone want to ask any questions? Or I know you're maybe thinking, what the fuck is this about? Like, but you have to just kind of risk it, I think, you know. And sometimes, yeah, I would rather not know and kind of play about. Anyway, let's see. I'll just see if I can get that, some bit of that on there. I think might be. My finger actually. Yeah, just even there, and could be that could be covered then with a little bit of the color that I used earlier. Sometimes when you do a thing, you don't even want to watch halfway through in case you talk yourself out of it before you've even tried it. Let me see now. Yeah. Oh God, it's very green there, wasn't it? I think the red was the colour that made that muted that a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it's all right. I think it's kind of knocking. Oh yeah, there's a couple of things too that I wanted to say for later on. There are ways of retrieving an edge, and we've got the option of using collage. I brought that along, actually I tore it off an old painting, but there's ways too of chiseling out the light and dark and the medium tones within a flower that if you've got your wild goose, you know, you can make a wild goose tame, but you can't make a tame goose wild. So if you start with this kind of reticence, it's a very different energy that you bring to it than if you start with a kind of let's see what happens kind of approach, you know. And if there's a looseness in the beginning, you can then find ways of kind of making more considered, doing something more considered over the top. But I just wanted to speak about the oil pastel. I bought some of these really nice thick white oil pastels. And so, for example, if you've got an area where you want to retrieve some of the background colour, oh, that's great. You can do it with other things. You know, you don't have to rely on the acrylic on its own. And it might be towards the end, of course, that you use these as options. And I've also got a bag with ink in it. No, the bell has gone there now, I know. These are sprays that I got from Lidl, acrylic sprays. But I like to use this as a drawing tool. And you know, there are ways of retrieving an edge by using that as well. It works quite nicely sometimes over the oil pastel. And you might even, for example, use a non-dominant hand. There's loads of colours of ink in there. You might use your non-dominant hand in order to find an organic line that might represent, the way the foliage could be kind of lost and found there. Yeah, and then there's the option of using the stencils and the collage, and I put them all on the table over there. Yeah, like sometimes even just a little bit that you might not know at first instance, and you discover it as you look more closely. So all of these things are possibilities as you go on. But I find that first I need to set myself up in this space of really having no idea. There's something about leaping into the unknown of it that feels quite uncomfortable. Today it does anyway. Sometimes it feels like, yay! But today I'm like, Jesus. I need to make it look a bit more like, But I think it's worth taking a risk. I think it's worth being prepared to lose it all in every mark almost. So that, in the name of freedom, I'm talking myself into this because I don't feel it yet, but it'll kind of happen as you move. And I would recommend that you move as best you can, even if it's to lean back in your chair and at arm's length every so often, just so that you're it's a helpful thing, I think, to move, and remembering to breathe down into the belly and keep yourselves hydrated, all of that stuff. And I'll do another demonstration after lunch. If it feels like it would be a helpful thing, I'll do that. We can talk about it and maybe pull out a little bit more some of the details, the darks and the lights in there. Yeah, and I got a set. Yeah, I was going to show off these. Got a set of kind of fluorescent. You think that they're weird altogether, but I think, like, for example, maybe I was going to say maybe the yellow, but I think even part of it, like, just to capture the light falling on an edge of the petal or something, it might work. I don't know. It's maybe not the bunch for these paints actually when I look at them again. Yeah. What do you think? Are you kind of all right, like, to start, and then I'll go around and see how you're getting on as you work. Okay. Yeah. And I'll put all the stuff that I've just used over there on the table with the paper. Yeah. And you don't have to be dancing around the easel or anything, but I just recommend that you keep yourself limbered up, loose of limb, and open to what's going on there. And we'll have a different setup every day. It might be maybe a little bit more colourful tomorrow. I don't know. I thought it was nice to have flowers that are actually growing at the moment in the setup. So thanks for your attention, and all the best to everybody here. See ya.